So I'm going to cover some of the specifics of those different types of creeps that you gain access to as part of the escalation, and my favorite is the tank creep. Now, in our playtesting, we were noticing that one of the most impressive things that players could do was send a whole bunch of units at the enemy, and unfortunately that was killed way too easily by a couple of well-placed AoE support abilities. So our answer to that were these tank creeps. Tank creeps are large, physically impressive looking units that soak either the full amount or a portion of the damage of surrounding units. And here you see an example in this flyby of the green tether coming out of the tank and hitting any of the close units near them. Now these tanks also leverage the buffs or abilities of some of the creeps that are following them, such as the shield, so that they'll take less damage from the flamethrower or what have you.
Also coming into play with how much damage creeps take is the type or category of creep, and also the category of actual tower or support damage. We have three different main types of damage. We have heat, concussive, and piercing, and those sort of line up with our three types of creep, which are biological, cybernetic, and mechanical. Each different type of creep has a visual cue, and it'll tell you which takes more damage from others.
Similarly, you want to pair good support like the focus fire that you're seeing here on the screen to take down those different units, because you can leverage the multifaceted nature of your defense to really pop through any of the big units. So if, for instance, you've got a biological unit with a lot of health that's running through, you can set a focus fire on him and everybody will shoot at him so that you know that you don't get stuck with the wrong type of turret shooting at him. And of course, a commander might be faced with a situation like what we're seeing here, where you've just got a bunch of units on the screen. So the best way to deal with that, as this commander might assume, might be to just drop the largest piece of artillery that we have in our game, the nuclear weapon.
And this is always cool, dropping the hammer with this nuke. But as Rex just hit on, we actually punish players a little bit for thinking too arrogantly with that. We have sort of a check and a balance system here, where if you're going to assume that a support can finish everything off in a big mass, you're going to be assuming wrong. You actually have to have a well-tailored defense and a well-tailored support. In this case, the tanks have been a little bit too much, and the opposing team has thought well ahead about how to sneak those mobs through.
So this brings us into a good segue for our next big concept of Soul Survivor, and that's our communication. Being that we're on Xbox Live and soon for the PC, we make some assumptions about players having the headset and working together, and that's much different than other turret defense games you might have seen or played. Here, this commander decides to build a bunch of level 1 anti-air turrets to kind of take down some of the heavy air that has just been brought in to try and leak through. But because they were able to communicate, he sells off those turrets because his buddy says, hey wait, I just built a level 3 anti-air that's more than capable of taking care of all that air that's coming down the pipe. So really, in our game, you're able to leverage this communication much different than other turret defenses to play with your friends on Xbox Live, or just to get a good feel of how to mix a strategy both on the player level as well as on your personal level of how you're going to mix your turrets and support together.
It's important to notice as well that as the game gets more complex, the communication helps. It's not mandatory. It's a good time with friends. You can sit down, play a little bit more casually, but really playing at a high level, as we eventually would like to, does require that level of communication, as Rex was getting into. And as we sort of move past this mid-game, through our 20 levels of power that characters do go through, these commanders go through, we're at level 8 or power 8 here. And you have a lot of different creeps. These were opened up as you go, and they are becoming more diverse and more challenging. But you also have towers here which are ready to be upgraded. And what that enables, especially on a map with really tight choke points like this one, is making sure that each choke point isn't wasted, that you're not simply placing lots of small towers, but that you're able to take those towers and build up your best points as more defensive. So those towers can be upgraded, as was discussed earlier, and your support does get better, and all in all, you're really looking to do either concentrated fire or more hard-hitting spread fire over the course of the map.
And that communication and growth pattern extends to all points of the game. Here you saw the second commander built another one of those inhibitors or detector turrets for a hole in their stealth detection that was starting to leak some of those stealth units. Now, Dylan, you were one of the players that was playing against the commander that we're watching here in this video, correct?
Absolutely, absolutely.
And can you kind of go over some of the specifics of this, what I would call the tipping point in this battle, where this commander really just starts to lose it and it starts to snowball out of control?
Yeah, one of the beautiful points of Soul Survivor so far has been that as you play, you're able to take a look at what your opponent's weak to, you're able to see what you're leaking. Every time your opponent leaks, your controller's going to give you a little bit of vibration. You can go over and see what part of the wave is coming through. And in this case, I realized that most of the damage on the ground, not against air units, was coming from that flamethrower and from the synergy between the flamethrower and those radiation towers. So my choice was to pass through as many shielded creeps as possible, try to throw in some tanks, and those tanks are able to take less damage because the shielded creeps aren't passing on damage from the flamethrowers because they themselves aren't actually taking that damage. Once we got a lot of shielded creeps in there, my teammate and I were able to push through, and eventually the gold team that you're seeing playing here does lose.
So that's our biggest selling point, is the fact that Soul Survivor is really a real-time strategy game that fits itself into a turret defense. You can play with all these different levels, you can play with all those different types of support, and really custom tailor your defenses as well as your offense in the Wars mode. This has been the developer commentary for the Wars mode of Cadenza Interactive's debut title, Soul Survivor, which is coming soon to the Xbox Live Indie Games channel as well as PC.
And we also invite you to come check out our forums at soulsurvivorgame.com. I'm the forum administrator. My name on there is Ascari. And you can also, if you're up at PAX in Seattle, Penny Arcade Expo, you can check us out this Labor Day weekend. We will be wandering the floor with our t-shirts.
So on behalf of Rex
and Dylan
and the entire development team here at Cadenza Interactive, we'd like to thank you for taking the time to watch our video.